Okay, so now we've got the hardware installed and our electronics all connected up. The last thing we want to do is just a final setup of the guitar. So on an S-style guitar like this, we're going to go through 5 specific areas. First, we're going to check and make adjustments to our floating trem as needed. Next, we're going to check the amount of neck relief we're dealing with on the neck. Next, we'll check our action, which is the height of the strings above the fretboard. Fourth, we'll check our intonation. And then finally, we'll just check our individual pickup height. Okay, so one of the first setup tasks we need to do is set up our floating tremolo system. So if you're unfamiliar with Fender style vintage floating tremolo systems, essentially what we've got is a plate, the springs are pulling against that, and the interplay between the strings and the springs connected to the tremolo claw at the back are what raises the back here. And Fender recommend about a 3.2 mil gap between the back of the plate and the body, and that's what I'd normally go with as a starting point. And what that should allow us is when we use the bar, we should be able to shift the pitch of the note by a step, which is about a fret difference on the guitar. So you can hear that's pretty close now, but I'll just remove the arm. So one of the first things you should do, I've already done just to save a bit of time, but what I would recommend, loosening off all the strings and then adjusting each of these screws that hold the bridge in place, just loosening by about half a turn, and then retightening the 2 outside screws so that they work as a pivot. Then tune the guitar up to concert pitch. You also always want to make sure that the guitar's tuned to concert pitch when you're testing. And then remove the back plate. And then adjust these 2 screws accordingly. So if I was going to tighten these up, this would exact more pressure over the floating mechanism of the bridge than the strings. If I loosen this right up, the string tension is going to be more of a factor. And so therefore, if the bridge was sitting flat, for instance, we'd want the tension of the strings to take on more, that would then allow the back of that plate to lift. So we would loosen the springs at the back. Now, if this was sitting too high, vice versa. So we would tighten up the springs, and that would pull down on this more.